$447.23. That's what Jessica Martinez took home last week after working 40 hours as an emergency medical technician. In those 40 hours, she performed CPR on 3 cardiac arrest patients. She delivered a baby in the back of a moving ambulance. She held pressure on a gunshot wound while racing through traffic. She watched a 23-year-old overdose victim die despite everything she tried. She made $15 an hour, less than the shift manager at the Target down the street, less than the barista who made her coffee this morning. In 6 hours, Jessica will clock in for another shift. She'll respond to whatever emergencies her city throws at her. She'll save lives, comfort dying patients, and make split-second decisions that determine whether someone lives or dies. And she'll do it all while working a second job on her days off, because one life-saving job doesn't pay enough to survive. This is the story of emergency medical technicians, the first responders who arrive before anyone else, who perform miracles in the back of ambulances, who carry the weight of life and death for wages that would embarrass a Fortune 500 company, and why the people who save your life can barely afford to save their own. Meet Jessica Martinez, 28 years old, emergency medical technician with 6 years of experience. She works for City EMS, a private ambulance company contracted to serve a metropolitan area of 800,000 people. Her shift runs 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 12 hours responding to medical emergencies across the city. Heart attacks, car accidents, overdoses, assaults, diabetic emergencies, strokes, difficulty breathing, chest pain. The constant crisis that defines urban emergency medicine. Jessica makes $15 an hour. No benefits, no sick leave, no paid time off. If she doesn't work, she doesn't get paid. She's responsible for keeping people alive until they reach the hospital. And she's paid less than someone selling cell phones. Medic 7 is a 2014 Ford E450 ambulance with 247,000 miles. The air conditioning works intermittently. The check engine light has been on for 6 months. The stretcher's hydraulic lift sticks sometimes, making patient loading dangerous. Jessica and her partner Marcus stock it with their own supplies when the company runs short. Band-aids, tape, gloves. Basic equipment they pay for themselves because the alternative is showing up to emergencies unprepared. You'd think a company that bills $1,200 for a 5-mile transport could afford working equipment. Marcus mutters while jiggling the defibrillator that sometimes loses power. Jessica doesn't respond. She learned years ago that complaining doesn't change anything. 7:23 a.m. First call, cardiac arrest. Robert Patterson, 54 years old, collapsed at home. His wife called 911 4 minutes ago. Jessica's already preparing the cardiac monitor, drawing up medications, rehearsing the algorithm. She's performed CPR on 127 cardiac arrest patients in 6 years. She's brought back 17 of them. Each successful save earned her $15 an hour. Each failed attempt earned her the same. The paycheck doesn't change whether you save a life or watch someone die. But Jessica shows up anyway. Jessica performs flawless CPR. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, hard and fast. She's done this so many times her body remembers the rhythm. Marcus gets 4 access. Jessica administers medication. They shock the heart once, twice. Continue compressions. Check for pulse. Nothing. Shock again. More medications. More compressions. 12 minutes of perfect emergency medicine in a stranger's living room, while his wife watches, hoping these 2 people making $15 an hour can bring back the man she's loved for 30 years. At minute 14, Robert Patterson's heart starts beating again. In the back of Medic 7, Jessica keeps Robert alive. She monitors his heart rhythm, maintains his airway, adjusts medications. One wrong decision, one missed changes status, and he dies. The hospital is 8 minutes away. 8 minutes where Robert's life depends entirely on Jessica's skill, knowledge, and vigilance. The ambulance company will bill his insurance $1,847 for this transport. Jessica will receive $3.75 of that. 15 minutes at $15 an hour. She brought him back from death. She's paid less than parking lot attendants at the hospital she's delivering him to. At the hospital, Jessica transfers Robert to the ER team. She gives a detailed report, patient presentation, interventions performed, medications administered, response to treatment. The ER nurses earn $32 to $38 an hour. The doctors earn $150 to $200 an hour. The hospital administrators earn six-figure salaries. Jessica, who saved Robert's life before any of them even saw him, earns $15 an hour. She has 11 hours left in her shift. By 2 p.m., Jessica has run 9 calls. By 5 p.m., it's 14. No lunch break. No time to use the bathroom. Just constant crisis to crisis. Call 15. 83-year-old nursing home patient, difficulty breathing. Jessica provides oxygen, comforts the terrified woman, transports gently. Call 16. 20-year-old motorcycle accident, multiple trauma. Jessica controls bleeding, stabilizes fractures, keeps him conscious and calm. Call 17. Infant not breathing. Jessica performs infant CPR, saves the baby, hands her back to sobbing parents. $15 an hour. Every call, every life, every miracle and every tragedy. 6:17 p.m. Call 18 overdose. Brandon, 26 years old. Found unresponsive by his roommate. Not breathing. Fentanyl suspected. Jessica administers Narcan, the opioid reversal drug that brings overdose victims back from near death. She performs rescue breathing. Waits. Brandon wakes up angry, confused, in withdrawal. He refuses transport. This happens often. People Jessica saves from death don't thank her. They curse her for taking away their high. Please go to the hospital. Jessica says gently. You could stop breathing again in an hour. Brandon tells her to fuck off. Jessica documents his refusal, leaves Narcan with the roommate, provides crisis resources. She's done everything she can. She made $3.75 for saving a life that didn't want to be saved. 7:14 p.m. Jessica clocks out. 19 calls in 12 hours. 2 cardiac arrests. 1 successful save. 1 death. 17 other emergencies ranging from critical to routine. She drove 87 miles today in an ambulance. She'll drive another 23 miles home in rush hour traffic. Her car needs an oil change she can't afford. At the grocery store, Jessica does math in her head. Can she afford the name brand pasta, or should she get generic? The chicken is on sale, but it's still $12. She has $34 until payday in 3 days. Today she saved Robert Patterson's life and an infant who'd stopped breathing. Tonight she's deciding between buying chicken or keeping $12 for gas. Jessica lives in a 400-square-foot studio apartment that costs $850 a month. That's 57 hours of life-saving work just to pay rent. She works a second job 3 days a week at Target, stocking shelves for $16.50 an hour, more than she makes saving lives. Between both jobs, she works 65 to 70 hours a week. On her table, paramedic school textbooks. Paramedics make $18 to $22 an hour, barely more than EMTs despite years of additional training. Jessica is $8,000 in debt from EMT school. Paramedic school will cost another $12,000. She's investing thousands of dollars in years of her life to move from poverty wages to slightly less poverty wages. 11:47 p.m. Jessica should be sleeping. Instead, she's studying advanced cardiac life support protocols for paramedic school. Her phone buzzes. Text from dispatch. Can you cover 7 to 7 tomorrow? We're short. She's worked 6 days straight. She's exhausted. She needs a day off. But she also needs to make rent, needs to pay utilities, needs to put gas in her car to get to the job, that doesn't pay enough to cover basic survival. Jessica texts back, "Yes. Because that's what EMS does to people. You're too poor to say no." The next day, Jessica is back at Medic 7. Another 12-hour shift. Another series of life and death emergencies. This is the reality of emergency medical services. EMTs work impossible hours for poverty wages. They accumulate debt for training that doesn't lead to living wages. They leave the profession in droves. The average EMT career lasts 3 to 5 years. Not because they can't handle the medical emergencies. Because they can't afford to keep saving lives. Jessica is in year 6. She doesn't know how much longer she can survive doing the job she loves. Day 7 of Jessica's stretch. Major accident on the interstate. 4 vehicles, 7 patients, 2 critical. Jessica arrives first. She immediately begins triage, assessing each patient, determining who needs immediate transport, who can wait. She's running a mass casualty incident. She directs 3 additional ambulances as they arrive, coordinates with fire department, communicates with hospitals about incoming trauma patients. She's functioning as incident commander for a complex emergency operation, skills that would command $60 to $80 an hour in corporate emergency management. But in an ambulance, while saving actual lives, $15 an hour. After the accident, Jessica sits in the ambulance. 7 patients, 3 critical saves. Perfect execution under pressure. "I can't do this forever," Marcus says quietly. "My girlfriend wants to get married, buy a house. I can't tell her I make $15 an hour bringing people back from the dead." Jessica nods. She understands. She's 28 and has no savings, no retirement, no path to financial stability. She's in debt for training that's keeping her poor. "But who does this job if we don't?" she asks. Marcus has no answer. Neither does she. Jessica's last call, Comfort Care Transport. Mr. Reynolds, 87 years old, dying from cancer, being transported to hospice for his final days. This isn't a life to save. It's a life to honor. Jessica moves him gently, speaks softly, holds his hand when he's scared. "Thank you," his daughter whispers to Jessica. "You made this easier for him." Jessica made $7.50 for this transport, 30 minutes at $15 an hour. But she provided something priceless, dignity and compassion when it mattered most. 7 12-hour shifts, 84 hours, 127 emergency calls, 4 cardiac arrests, 3 successful saves, 1 death, dozens of lives protected, transported, treated, comforted. Jessica's gross pay for the week, $1,260. After taxes, about $940. The police officer walking past her to his cruiser makes $28 an hour. The firefighter at the station next door makes $24 an hour. They respond to many of the same calls Jessica does. They make 60 to 85% more than she does. Not because their work is more important, just because that's how EMS has always been valued. Right now, there are approximately 262,000 working EMTs. They respond to over 37 million emergency calls every year. The median wage for an EMT is $15.67 per hour. That's $32,600 a year for saving lives, managing medical emergencies, and carrying the weight of life and death decisions. Most EMTs work for private ambulance companies that prioritize profit over pay. Many work second jobs to survive. Many leave the profession within 5 years because poverty wages aren't sustainable no matter how much you love the work. And Americans only think about EMTs when they're dying and need someone to save them. These aren't just ambulance drivers. They're emergency medical technicians trained in advanced life support, trauma care, cardiac emergencies, pediatric crisis, and dozens of other critical interventions. They perform CPR on the side of highways. They deliver babies in parking lots. They stop bleeding from gunshot wounds. They talk down suicidal patients. They comfort dying people. They save children. They work miracles. And they do it for wages that keep them in poverty. For companies that bill thousands per transport while paying staff minimum wage. In a system that treats life-saving emergency response as a low-value service. EMTs don't want praise. They want wages that allow them to survive while saving others. Jessica's hands have performed CPR on 127 cardiac arrest patients in 6 years. They've delivered 4 babies. They've held pressure on countless wounds. They've comforted hundreds of terrified patients. These hands earn $15 an hour, less than hands that stock shelves, serve coffee, or answer phones. Not because Jessica isn't skilled, not because her work isn't critical, but because America has decided that emergency medical response is worth poverty wages. And people like Jessica keep showing up anyway because someone has to save the lives that need saving. Jessica is back at work today. She'll respond to emergencies, save lives, make $15 an hour. Tomorrow she'll do it again. And the day after. Until she burns out like most EMTs do. Until the poverty wages force her to choose between the job she loves and the life she needs to build. But today she's here. Because someone called 911. Because someone needs help. Because that's what EMTs do. They show up for strangers experiencing the worst moments of their lives, even when those strangers have no idea their rescuer can barely afford rent. The ambulance company will bill thousands. The insurance company will negotiate down. And Jessica will make $15 an hour. If Jessica's story opened your eyes to the economic injustice of emergency medical services, share it with someone who needs to understand that the people who save your life can't afford to save their own. If you know an EMT or paramedic, acknowledge not just their medical skills, but their financial sacrifice. Thank them for choosing a profession that undervalues their worth. Support policies that provide living wages for emergency medical workers. And if you are an EMT watching this while working a second job to make rent, remember, your work has value that far exceeds your paycheck. The system that undervalues you is broken, not you. You deserve wages that reflect the lives you save and the skills you possess. You are not just an EMT. You are a medical professional who performs miracles. Your financial struggle doesn't diminish your professional worth. It exposes a system that's failing the people who keep it running. Subscribe to The Quiet Brave for more stories about the people who serve others while struggling themselves. Hit the notification bell so you never miss stories about those who sacrifice everything to help strangers.